Today's video is about how I graduated college with bipolar. I had to change schools, I had to change majors, but I got through it. College is not fun for everyone. Hi friends, it's Jess with Our Bipolar. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, just a little bit about me. I have bipolar 1 and I was diagnosed 26 years ago when I was a sophomore in college. So we're going back to the college times. College was really rough for me, and I'll explain why. So we're gonna start actually right before I started college. When I was a senior in high school, I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder. I kind of have had depression on and off my whole life. I really felt like I needed to see a therapist. I needed to figure out what was going on. I had gone through childhood trauma, and I'm not going to give a trigger warning because I'm not going to get into that in this video. But I was really going through hard times. So I was diagnosed with depression. I was put on antidepressants before I started college. As you'll see, that was not the correct diagnosis for me, and the antidepressants I tried did not help. So I started my freshman year at the University of Pittsburgh. This school was only about an hour away from where I grew up and where my parents lived, so it wasn't too far away. I started school. Of course, I had major anxiety and I was super stressed about moving away from home, living on my own, basically living with a roommate, starting college. And I was also going through depression, so it wasn't a great way to go into school. I was pre-med, and I had, up until this point, kind of skated through school. In high school, I really didn't do a lot of work, and I got pretty good grades for doing no studying and no homework, basically almost all A's. And I thought, well, college won't be that much different, will it? I had a hard time studying. I've always had trouble studying. I actually had a psychiatrist tell me I probably have low-level ADHD and I should study in groups. But, I didn't do that. So I would sort of just try to study right before exams, and these were really hard classes, biology and chemistry classes, and I was getting okay grades. Average grades, but not the kind of grades I was used to. I also just didn't feel comfortable yet. I actually joined a sorority, which is very unlike me. I don't think I'm that type of person, really. Nothing against sororities, it just wasn't really my type of thing. But I did it. I was going to a really big school, and a girl who lived next to me in the dorm was going to rush, that's what they call it, try to join a sorority. So I did. It was a great group of girls, the sorority that I, was asked to join. But I felt so uncomfortable. I mean, this was, like 60 girls in the sorority, and my pledge class had about like 20 some girls. And I just did not feel like I fit in. I'm sure everyone probably felt that way for the most part, but it was a very uncomfortable feeling, and it also took up a lot of my time for my freshman year. I really needed that time to just adjust, study, try to get better at studying. So that goes on and leads up to my sophomore year, and at the very beginning of my sophomore year is when I started having bipolar symptoms. I was going into mania and ended up in psychosis, so having hallucinations and delusions. And there's a video on that's called My First Full-Blown Manic Episode, and I think the link will pop up right about now. And I'll also link that video down in the description box if you want to know more about that. But basically what happened was, like I said, I was having hallucinations and delusions, and I ended up randomly calling my dad very early one morning to just tell him about all of this. I was bursting to tell someone all of these things that were happening. He's a therapist, so he realized what was happening, came to school, called my psychiatrist who I was seeing for the depression, and they wanted me to be admitted to a local hospital, to the psych ward, which I probably should have been, but I protested profusely, and my psychiatrist agreed that my dad could take care of me instead. From there, I was trying to get back to school, and also through my sophomore year, I had a boyfriend. I had just met someone and we had started dating, but we hadn't been together very long when I was diagnosed with bipolar 1. And so I had gone home, but I did try to come back for, I think, about a month and try to pick up going to school and everything, and I just could not do it. So I needed to take at least the rest of the semester off. We had talked about me taking a year off, and I was so bored at home, and I just wanted my life back. I felt like things were changing much too rapidly, and I couldn't adjust to that either. So I wanted to go back to school. So I had this boyfriend, and pretty quickly after I was diagnosed, I broke up with him. I was just like, hey, this is too much right now. I can't do it. And he commented on how it was pretty weird to have a girlfriend who had bipolar, so that was probably good. So yeah, don't ever date someone who says something like that to you, okay? So like I said, I took the rest of that semester off, and I really couldn't live on my own, so I transferred schools and I got into Washington and Jefferson College, which was in my hometown. So I could live at home and go to school there. But there was no way I could stay pre-med. It was just impossible. So at first, I was just taking some general classes and trying to figure out, what should I major in? What am I going to do with my life? I took an English class. It was just like an entry-level literature class, and it was actually with Mr. Thorpe. He was wonderful. I always have loved reading, and I fell in love with this class, and I decided I was going to major in English. And I thought, I could probably do something with this. I'm not sure exactly what I should do, but I looked up, and you could go into law, you could go into editing, you could go into PR, different things. So I thought, something like that would probably work. And English was also a really good major for me because I was doing a lot of reading novels. It wasn't textbooks, it wasn't really studying, it was just reading. And then I would go to class and we would analyze these novels. So it was kind of perfect for me at the time, and I've always loved reading books, talking about books. During all of this time, so now I'm at Washington and Jefferson, my grades from Pitt had kind of been erased. I guess that's how it goes when you transfer, like the grades you get at the new school are what counts. And so, I went through school and I was able to get pretty decent grades, and I actually graduated with honors. I graduated cum laude, which is like the lowest of the honors, but still with honors. And it was a major feat for me because as I was going through at W&J, I was having terrible rapid cycling. I had gotten on Depakote when I was diagnosed with bipolar. I was still on an antidepressant, which was like not a good idea. And I was just having a terrible time. I remember it was so hard for me to sleep every night. I was basically in mania most of the time, either hypomania, full-blown mania. I wasn't having a lot of psychosis then. I guess the Depakote was doing something. But it was really rough, and I would remember to go to sleep, I would put on headphones, and I would listen to music, but I would have to put the music down so low that I couldn't follow the music or like sing along in my head. And that's kind of how I got through school. Now, I also continued dating through college. I had a boyfriend pretty soon after starting at Washington and Jefferson. He went to Penn State, and he was like a friend of my friend's boyfriend who went there. And it wasn't a really long relationship, but it was something. And I didn't have very many friends at Washington and Jefferson. Just never really felt like I got a good chance to meet people. I didn't live on campus. I didn't start when everyone else started. So I had that boyfriend at Penn State, and then I ended up having another more long-term boyfriend who went to Penn State, and he was someone I went to high school with. And that relationship really was not fair to him. I think he was someone I felt very comfortable with, almost like a security blanket. I didn't realize this at the time, but anytime there was like a summer break, whenever we could actually be together a whole lot, I would break up with him. And then during the school year, we would get back together, and it was just like a long distance relationship. And I would travel to Penn State, and really going to Penn State and also visiting my friend Sam at WVU, that was like my only real, what you would think of it like college experience. Being really social, going to parties, drinking somewhat. I definitely was drinking at that time, but not heavily. But that was the only time I felt like this is what college is supposed to be like. And I just had that in little spurts, going to visit my friends at these schools and my boyfriend. But I do remember going to Penn State. I would sometimes leave the bars or the parties early so I could go to sleep. And I remember my one of his friends said, "Oh, she's a stick in the mud. Like, she goes home early. She's no fun." Yeah, well, maybe it was no fun, but I was doing my very best. So I had this boyfriend, and he was really good to me. I was not so good to him, and I was still struggling. I mean, all the way through college, I feel like it's amazing that I graduated at all. But like I said, I graduated with honors. It was not the fun, cool college experience that everyone reminisces about. I did it. I graduated. I'm shocked sometimes that I graduated. I needed a lot of help. One thing I never did, and I would encourage you to do if you're, going into college or in college, is ask for accommodations. I didn't know that was available to me. I know that you could probably get extensions on work through these accommodations because of bipolar, maybe have more time to take tests. There's all sorts of things that's probably out there. But I just didn't know about that. I would at times ask professors, especially at W&J, if I could have extensions if I wasn't doing well, or sometimes I think I did like extra work, like extra credit, just because my grade was low and I had, been going through mania or depression. And a lot of the teachers were very accommodating in that way, but I didn't have an overall accommodation. And I do think that would have helped. But yeah, that's how I got through college. It was messy. I really don't have good friends from college. I got through. I did not go on and become a doctor. Instead, I got my English degree, and I also did minor in art. And I am now a managing editor for scientific journals. So I was able to do something with that major. And I just think, if you're going to college and you have bipolar, or if you couldn't complete college or couldn't go to college at all, and college is not the end all be all. It's okay if you don't want to go to college or can't go to college. I get it. I just think for me, it was what I needed to do to get where I wanted to go. And yeah, somehow I graduated, and I'm very thankful for that, despite the fact that I didn't have the best experience or the most fun. I'll ask you to subscribe, like this video, comment. I would love to hear about your experience in college, and if you have bipolar, how that all went for you. So thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.